Welcome back, my dear students. In this video, we were discussing about some properties of linear operators. So, in this video, we will be discussing about some more properties of linear operators. So, next result is, which is actually a consequence of the previous result on linear operators. The result is linear operators preserve linear dependence. That means if you are given with a linear operator and a set, then the set is actually linearly dependent, then its image set is also actually linearly dependent, which we have already proved that. So let T be a linear transformation from T of T to R of T. We have to prove that T preserves linear dependence. We have to take a linearly independent set and prove that its image is also linearly dependent. So let x1 etc. xn is linearly dependent. Then by definition there exists constants such that alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 plus alpha 3 x3 plus etc. alpha n xn is equal to 0, and at least 1 alpha I is not equal to 0, where I varies from 1 to etc. So this is actually linearly dependent. We have to prove that its image is actually linearly dependent. So T of 0, 0 is this, is equal to T of alpha 1 x1 plus etc. alpha n. Okay. So which is equal to alpha 1 into T of x1 plus alpha 2 into T of x2 plus etc. alpha n into T of x. We know that 0 is equal to 0. So what we get is 0 is equal to alpha 1 Tx1 plus alpha 2 Tx2 plus etc. alpha n Tx. So alpha 1 x1 plus etc. alpha n xn is equal to 0 implies at least 1 alpha is equal to 0. So which implies at least 1 alpha is not equal to 0. So this is actually the linear combination of T of x1, T of x2, etc. T of x, which are the images of the elements x1, x2, etc. xn. So whenever x1, x2, etc. xn is linearly independent, its image T of x1, T of x2, etc. T of xn is also linearly dependent, because alpha 1 T of x1, alpha 2 T of x plus etc. alpha n T of xn is equal to 0, imply that at least one of the alpha is not equal to 0, which means that T of x1, T of x2 etc. T of xn is, implies that T of x1, T of x2 etc. T of xn is linearly dependent. So we have started with a set x1, x2, etc. xn, which is linearly independent. Which we have, now we have proved that its image T of x1, T of x2, etc. T of xn is actually linearly independent. Linearly dependent. So T preserves linear dependence. This is the definition. This is the theorem. Now let's move on to some other classes of properties. So now we move on to the inverse operators. Inverse of a linear operator. So inverse of a linear operator. So let T be a linear operator from d of t to r1. Okay. Then T is said to be 1 1 1 or injective if distinct elements maps onto distinct elements. Okay. Or the same elements maps onto the same elements. So the definition is x1 equal to x2 implies t of x1 not equal to t of x2. Where x1 x2 are elements of t of t. Or equivalently t of x1 is equal to t of x2 implies x1 is equal to x2. So if the elements are distinct, then the image is also distinct. This is if a function satisfies such a property, then it is said to be injective or one. Now we have enough to define our inverse of a function, especially the linear operator. So let T from x to y be a linear operator. So this is actually x, the vector space. So this is actually d, actually y and subset r of t. So for every x naught, we have some t of x naught in r of t. For every x naught in d of t, we have some t of x naught. T of x naught can be thus y naught. Okay. So for every x naught in d of t, we have some element t of x naught in r of t. And in the case of this is actually t. Then in the case of inverse, T inverse, the image of T inverse under y naught is actually x naught. Okay. So if T is a map from d of t to r of t, T inverse is a map from r of t to d of t. If the image of x naught under t is y naught, then the inverse image of y naught under T inverse is actually x. So this is the basic definition of the inverse of a linear operator. So if T is a transformation from d of t to r of t, then with the element image of x naught is y naught, then we can define an inverse from r of t to d of t satisfying T inverse of y naught is equal to x naught. So for every x naught which maps onto y naught, the inverse of a function, the inverse of the function maps y naught onto x naught. This is the basic idea. Clearly, whenever the inverse exists, the function t must be actually 1 1 and only. If you define from d of t to r of t, it is always 1 2. So whenever the function is 1 1, the inverse exists whenever t is defined from d of t to r of t. Because if the function is not 1 1, which means that there exists some x naught comma x1 such that x naught different from x1, both of them maps onto the same element. Let's say y naught. So here there exists x1, both of them maps onto the same element. Then if it is not 1 1, then its image, then its inverse, T inverse, should map y naught onto x naught as well as x1, which is not at all possible. So that's why whenever the function is defined, if from d of t to r of t, the linear operator, if it is 1 1, we can clearly understand that it should have an inverse. If it is not 1, 1, we cannot say that the function possesses an inverse. So, and also inverse satisfies the certain condition. First condition is, which is trivial, T inverse of T of x is equal to x for the x element of T of t. So this is actually, this is d of t. Here we take an x. This is r of t. Here we have t of x. So this is the function. Now this d of t. T, this is t of x. T inverse maps t of x onto x. So if we take the composition, T inverse of t is actually a map. T inverse of t is actually a map from d of t to d of t, which maps x onto itself. So T inverse t is actually the identity. Similarly, T inverse t is also the identity map. So if we take first T inverse, that is the map R of t to d of t, the map which maps t of x to x. This is actually T inverse. Now take R of t, d of t to x to tx, which is actually t. If we take the composition, t composition t inverse or t of t inverse, we get a function from r of t to r of t, which maps tx onto tx. So every element onto it. So t composition t inverse also identity, or in general, t of t inverse y is actually y for all y element of R. So if a linear transformation T has an inverse T inverse, then T inverse T and T of T inverse should be equal to identity map, or T inverse T of x is equal to x for every x element of T of T, and T of T inverse is equal to y for every y element of R. Now let's move on to some properties of this inverse transformation. So the basic properties of inverse, which can be stated as a theorem. So theorem which states that let x comma y be vector spaces both real or both complex. Let t from d of t to y be a linear operator with actually subset of x and range r of t subset of y. The first condition is the inverse T inverse from R of t to d of t exists if and only if t of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. The first condition. The second condition is, the second condition B is, if T inverse exists it is a linear operator. And third condition is if dimension of d of t is equal to n, which is less than infinity, which is a finite number, and t inverse exists, then dimension of r of t and dimension of d of t are actually same. So this is the theorem. So the theorem states that if you are given with two vector spaces x and y and a linear transformation t from dt to y, where dt is the domain which is a subset of x and the range set r of t is a subset of y, then the inverse t inverse exists if and only t of x is equal to 0, implies x is equal to 0. T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0 means if the inverse exists, then the null space consists only in the 0 element. Because the set of all x such that t of x is equal to 0 is the null space. Then t of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0 means the null space contains only the 0 element. So the inverse exists if and only the null space n of t is actually only the 0 element. This is the statement. So the inverse exists whenever the null space consists only the 0 element, and if null space consists only the 0 element, then the inverse exists. We have to prove both the cases. The second condition, so if the inverse exists for a linear transformation, the inverse is also a linear operator. The inverse of a linear operator is always a linear operator. And the third condition is if the dimension of the domain is a finite number and the inverse exists, then the dimension of the range and the dimension of domain are always same. So if you consider the finite dimensional spaces and the inverse of a linear operator exists, then the dimension of the range and the dimension of the domain are always same. So this is the three statements which we have to prove. So let's move on to the first part. First part we have to prove two things. So let's move on to the proof. So the first part A. So in the first part we have to prove that T inverse exists, T inverse from R of T to T of T exists if and only T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. So we have to prove that if T inverse exists, then T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0, and if T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0, then T inverse also exists. So first assume that T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. So we assume that. We have to prove that T inverse exists. So for T inverse to be existing, it is enough to prove that T is actually 1, 1 because T is defined from D of T to R. So to prove that T inverse exists, we have to prove that. So it is enough to prove that T is actually 1. So T is 1, 1 and T from D of T to R of T, T inverse exists. So T is 1, 1 in order to prove that T of x1 is equal to T of x2. So which implies T of x1 minus T of x2 is equal to 0. By the property of linearity, implies T of x1 minus is equal to 0. We have assumed that T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. So T of x1 minus x2 is equal to 0 implies x minus x2 is equal to 0, which implies x1 is equal to x2. So what we have proved is T of x1 is equal to T of x2 implies x1 is equal to x2. By the definition of injection, from that we can clearly state that T is actually an injection. So we have established that T of x1 is equal to T of x2 implies x1 is equal to x2. So T is actually injective or 1 1, which implies T inverse exists. Implies T inverse exists. So T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0, which further clarifies that T inverse exists. Now conversely, we have to assume that T inverse exists, and we have to prove that T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. So conversely, assume that T inverse exists. T inverse exists means actually T is 1 1. Then we have T of x1 is equal to T of x2 implies x1 is equal to x2 for all x1 or x belongs to D of t. This is the definition of 1 1. Now choose our x2 to be 0. So in particular, so x2 is equal to 0. This is true for any x1 comma x2. So this is true for the case when x2 is equal to 0 also. So T of x1 is equal to T of 0 implies x1 is equal to 0. We know that T is a linear transformation means T of 0 is equal to 0. So T of x1 is equal to 0 implies x1 is equal to 0 for all x1 belongs to D of t. So which implies T of is equal to 0 implies is equal to 0 for every x element of the domain. So we have proved that whenever T inverse exists, then T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0, which establishes the first criteria, that is T of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0 if and only if T inverse exists. Now move on to the second problem, B. Now secondly, we have to prove that if T inverse exists, then this is linear. Okay. So T is a transformation, linear transformation from D of t to R of t. And T inverse is a transformation from R of t to D of t. We have to prove that T inverse is linear. So it is enough to prove that it satisfies the condition T inverse of some if inverse of, it is enough to prove that T inverse of some alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 y2 is equal to alpha 1 T inverse of y1 plus alpha 2 T inverse of y2, where y1 comma y2 is to R of t. If this can be proved, then we have established that our space, our operator inverse is actually a linear operator. So this is what we have to prove. So clearly, if T from D2 to R of t be a linear transformation, then R of t is a vector space. So R of t is a vector space. By previous T is linear. Now for every x1, so if you take y1 y2 belongs to R of t, so if you take y1 or y2 belongs to R of t, So y1, y2 belongs to R of t means there exists x1, x2 belongs to d of t such that t of x1 is equal to y1 and t of x2 is equal to y2. This is actually, and which further implies that since it is given that T inverse exists, we can state that x1 is equal to T inverse of y1 and x2 is equal to T inverse of y2, since we have assumed that T inverse exists. So now we have to prove that T inverse is a linear transformation. So the combination of this satisfies this property. That's what we have to prove. So since T is linear, so T of alpha 1 x1 alpha 2 x2. So T of alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 is equal to alpha 1 into T of x1 plus alpha 2 into T of x2, which is equal to alpha 1 into y1 plus alpha 2 into y2. Okay. So T of alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 is alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 y2. So this implies, so we have by property of inverse T of x is equal to y implies inverse y is equal to x. So T of alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 is equal to alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 y2 implies T inverse of alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 y2 is actually equal to alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2. Now in place of x1 we can substitute T inverse of y1, in place of x2 we can substitute T inverse of y2. So which is equal to alpha 1 T inverse of y1 plus alpha 2 T inverse of y2. So we have proved that T inverse of alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 y2 is equal to alpha 1 T inverse of y1 plus alpha 2 T inverse of y2, which means that our operator T inverse is actually a linear operator. So we have proved that our operator T inverse is also a linear operator. Now moving on to the third property. Third property states that see, so it states that if dimension d of t is equal to n, which is less than infinity, and t inverse exists, then dimension r of t is equal to dimension is what we have to do. So by previous theorem, it states that if dimension d of t is n, which is less than infinity, and t is linear, if t is linear and dimension d of t is equal to n, which is less than infinity, then dimension r of t is less than or equal to n, or dimension r of t is less than or equal to dimension of t, which we have proved it. We have proved it. Okay. Now, since t is actually linear, we can say that T inverse is also linear. And so T is linear implies T inverse is linear. And T inverse is from R of T to D of T. And this result is true for every finite dimensional spaces. Since from the first part, dimension of R of t is less than dimension of D of t, we can clearly understand that dimension of R of t is actually finite. Since dimension of d of t is n, so dimension of r of t should be finite dimension. So T inverse is from R of t to d of t. T inverse is linear and dimension of R of t is actually finite. We can apply this theorem on T inverse. So T inverse is linear and dimension of R of t is actually finite number. Then domain dimension of d of t should be less than dimension of R of t. So in this case, t is a map from d of t to R of t. And dimension of d of t is finite implies dimension of r of t is less than dimension of d of t. Here instead of t we have t inverse. Here instead of d of t we have r of t. Instead of r of t we have d of t. Now applying this theorem we get that dimension of d of t is actually less than or equal to dimension of r of t. This is what we have established. Okay. So from t is linear and the theorem, we have dimension of d r of t less than or equal to dimension of d of t. And t is linear implies t inverse is linear. From the first part, we have dimension of r of t is finite. And now applying the previous theorem, we get dimension of d of t less than or equal to dimension of r of t. So now applying these two conditions, we get dimension of d of t is equal to dimension of r. So we have established all three properties of the inverse. To sum up the whole thing, so the first condition is T inverse x is if and only if t of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0 or n of t contains only single elements, identity element. So we have assumed t of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0. We have to prove that T inverse x is it is enough to prove that t is 1 1. We have established that, and then conversely we assume that t inverse we have to prove that t of x is equal to 0 implies x is equal to 0 or n of t is equal to 0. We apply x2 is equal to 0 on the one condition and prove both the parts. Now the second part, so if t inverse exists, then t inverse should be linear. So T inverse is a map from R of t to D of t. In order to prove that it is linear, for every y1 y2 belongs to R of t, T inverse of alpha y1 plus alpha 2 y2 is equal to alpha 1 T inverse of y1 plus alpha 2 T inverse of y2. Now we apply since y1 y2 belongs to R of t, we have elements x1 x2 belongs to D of t such that t of x1 is equal to y1, t of x2 is equal to y2. Now apply a simple transformation. Applying t of alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 is equal to alpha 1 y1 plus alpha 2 x y2. Now applying the basic properties of inverse function, we have established that t inverse is also linear. Now, the property is that if dimension of d of t is finite and t inverse exists, then the dimension of the range set and the domain set is always same. If we apply t is linear, dimension of d of t is n, then from the previous theorem, we can easily understand that dimension of R of t is less than or equal to dimension of t of t. Now t is linear. By the second part of this theorem, t inverse is also linear. Now apply the same theorem, previous theorem, on t inverse. Then we can understand that dimension of d of t less than or equal to dimension of R of t. Combining these two, we get dimension of d of t is equal to dimension of R of t. So I hope you understood. Thank you.